Be hot. What is up, guys? I am Howie. This is the Go Ride channel, coming at you on a lovely but hot Sunday afternoon from Livermore, California. And today we're going to be talking about the $12.99 Panigale R Final Edition and the new V4 Superbike that Ducati supposedly has in the works for production for the 2018 model year. So on Friday, Ducati just went ahead and unveiled at World Superbikes at Laguna Seca the new $12.99 Panigale R Final Edition, which was teased at the end of June. So the bike is beautiful, in beautiful red, white, and green livery, ridden in by the two team riders to a private unveiling on Friday, and then I believe the bike was on display on Saturday. Supposedly this last run is a 209 horsepower twin, and it's the final edition because it is the last twin that Ducati is making, right before they move on to a V4, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So 209 horsepower, that strikes me as a ton of power for a street bike, especially considering like some of the more powerful bikes that I can think of offhand are the RSV4 RF, RSV4 RR, and the S1000RR. You know, the Aprilias, I believe, are putting down 201 horsepower this last production year. So 209 horsepower maybe doesn't sound like that much more, except for the fact you need to consider that these are sub 400 pound machines. So that's going to be a tremendously fast bike, and it's going to be an interesting bike and probably a coveted bike for the people that appreciate Ducati's V-twin racing heritage. So what's coming up? What's going to replace that? Well, based on what I've been reading in the rumor mill, is there's a V4 that's coming out. It's going to be roughly the same displacement, 11 or 1200 cc's, with the exception of like a spec type bike that's going to be 1,000 potentially by reducing the bore. Just hearsay at this point. But it's going to be a 90-degree V4, which differs slightly from Aprilia's 65-degree four-cylinder motor that they, have available now. Rumor that I've seen is it's going to be roughly 202 horsepower, so right in line with the Aprilia, but it's doing that with a different cylinder configuration, and a 90-degree angle between the two banks of cylinders versus Aprilia's 65, and they're doing it with more displacement. So I'm curious to see what the torque figures are when they come out. Curious to see how the motor's positioned in the bike, and so on and so forth. So that's going to be really interesting. Supposedly Ducati is going to continue to run the V-twin for the 2018 Superbike season, and then they're going to go ahead and move over to the four-cylinder, similar to, I guess, the Desmo Sedici that they ran in, I think it was 2008 for several years. But they're going to go ahead and move back to the four cylinders in 2019. And supposedly the homologation model is obviously going to have to comply with the pricing requirements from World Superbike, which I think is 40,000 euro. So in American, that's somewhere between $44,000 and $45,000 without having checked the exchange rates this morning. So going to be pretty exciting, a fairly quote-unquote attainable bike, right? I mean, $44,000, $45,000 is still a ton of money, but it's not an RC 21.3, which is $184,000 for the base model. So going to be very interesting to see, excuse me, very interesting to see what Ducati does. And I'm also very curious as an owner of a 749 to see what they decide to do with the middleweight. Ducati's middleweight has grown steadily since, I think 06-07 when they came out the 848, and then it was the 899, and now the 959 Panigale. That's darn near a leader bike now, and it makes, what was leader bike power when this 749 was made. So I'm going to be very curious to see if they, and this answer may exist out there, and maybe I just haven't come across it yet, but I'm going to be very curious to see what they do if they have a smaller or detuned four-cylinder that they'll sell to try to capture some of that market. So very excited. curious to see what Ducati is going to have coming down the pipe. Also, with the sale of Ducati, it's going to be curious to me to see how that influences their R&D and racing efforts. So we will see. Very excited for the coming times, and why don't you guys get out there and go ride? And if I see you out there, I will wave. Thank you, lady.